All right, so we're back for another deep dive. And today, we're going to be taking a look at Nvidia's plans to kind of dominate the AI hardware world.
Yeah.
We've got a great report here from SemiAnalysis, so let's just jump right into it.
Yeah, definitely. Nvidia is facing some pretty stiff competition these days, but they don't seem to be backing down.
It's almost like they're paranoid about losing their position at the top.
Yeah.
I mean, they are at the top right now. Would you agree with that? I mean, they're...
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, their GPUs are pretty much the gold standard when it comes to AI training and all that.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is that, even that is being challenged now. You've got Google making some serious waves with their TPUs.
Right.
And then software platforms like Meta's PyTorch 2.0 and OpenAI's Triton are really making it easier for other hardware companies to kind of get in the game.
So even though they're at the top, all these threats are emerging.
Yeah.
And that's where this only the paranoid survive mentality comes in.
Right.
It seems like Jensen Huang, their CEO, really embodies that philosophy. Would you say that's a fair assessment?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think NVIDIA is very aware of all these, pressures that are coming at them.
Yeah.
And they're being very proactive about it.
Mm-hmm.
You pointed out how they're making these huge prepayments to secure all these components.
Yeah.
It's almost like they're trying to corner the market. $3.81 billion committed to supply agreements.
Wow.
And they're reportedly getting the majority of the HBM supply. What do you think about that tactic?
Well, it definitely sounds like a power move to me.
Yeah.
I mean, by securing all those supplies, they're potentially squeezing out the competition, companies that might struggle to get the resources that they need. And then on top of that, it's not just about the raw materials. They're also using this carrot and stick approach with their suppliers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you mentioned the example with the optical transceivers.
Yeah.
They went from being this kind of small player to shipping over $1 billion worth of them in just one quarter.
It's a bold strategy for sure. And it seems to be working for them so far.
Yeah.
But there are some potential downsides, I think, especially when you think about it from a broader market perspective.
Right.
Smaller companies that are trying to break into this space, they might just get priced out, or they won't even be able to get the components that they need.
It also makes you think about the potential for some, anti-competitive practices going on.
Exactly.
The report even mentions that they might be using preferential allocation as leverage. So companies that agree not to develop their own AI chips, or those that buy into NVIDIA's networking solutions like InfiniBand, even when there are cheaper alternatives out there, they might get better deals.
Yeah, if that's true, it does raise some questions about,
Fair play.
Yeah, exactly.
But let's shift gears a little bit and talk about their hardware roadmap.
Okay.
They've got some pretty impressive GPUs on the horizon.
They do.
We're talking the B100, the X100, the H200 HBM3E memory 224G SerDes, PCIe 7.0 co-packaged optical circuit switches.
Wow. Yeah. It's a lot to unpack, and it just shows you how quickly this industry is moving.
Yeah.
NVIDIA is accelerating their development timelines because of all this competitive pressure that they're feeling. And, AMD even had to cancel their MI350X, probably because of this upcoming B100 from NVIDIA.
Wow.
Yeah.
So they're actually forcing competitors to make tough choices just by, releasing these products.
Right.
Before we get too deep into the, nitty gritty of these specs, can you break it down for us a little bit?
Sure.
What's the big deal here?
Yeah.
Why should our listeners care about HBM3E memory and optical circuit switches? I mean, What's the impact on the everyday user?
Well, think of it this way. All of these advancements are basically turbocharging the brain of AI.
Okay.
It's a massive upgrade in speed, memory, and efficiency. Imagine going from dial-up internet to fiber optic.
Oh, wow.
That's kind of the leap that we're looking at here.
So everything AI touches is going to be exponentially faster and more powerful.
Exactly.
Right.
Self-driving cars, medical diagnoses, all of it will be able to process information much more quickly, handle larger data sets, and ultimately will have more sophisticated AI applications.
Okay. So that makes sense. But there's still this curious piece of the puzzle, the L40S GPU.
Yeah.
They're pushing this model, even though it's got some limitations for large language models.
Right.
Specifically because of the lower memory bandwidth.
Yeah.
So why focus on a GPU that might not be the best fit for some of these really demanding AI tasks?
It's a good question. Some people think that NVIDIA is using the L40S as a way to kind of secure market share.
Oh, okay.
Maybe it's a way to get their foot in the door with certain clients, or even to encourage OEMs to adopt their other more powerful GPUs down the line.
So even a less capable GPU could be a strategic play.
That's right.
Yeah.
Every move they made has implications throughout the entire market.
And speaking of shaking things up, they're also pushing for this MGX modular server design platform. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, essentially, NVIDIA is trying to redefine how we build servers.
Okay.
The MGX platform is kind of like a Lego set for servers.
Okay.
It offers this modular approach to design and assembly. And it could be a real game changer for smaller players who can now enter the market with these custom solutions.
So instead of relying on these one-size-fits-all solutions,
Right.
they can actually build something that's specifically for them.
Exactly. And that's huge for companies that are really pushing the boundaries of AI because specialized hardware can make a big difference.
So it seems like they're trying to make the server market more accessible and more competitive.
Exactly. And that could lead to more diversity and innovation, which ultimately benefits everyone.
So we've covered a lot of ground here. NVIDIA's dominance, the competitive threats, their aggressive supply chain tactics, these mind-blowing new GPUs, and their efforts to, really shake up the server market. What are your thoughts so far?
I'm just really struck by how NVIDIA is willing to make these bold moves to stay on top. They're not just reacting to the competition, they're actively trying to shape the future.
I totally agree. And it seems like we're just getting started.
Yeah, for sure.
There's so much more to explore here.
Definitely.
We've seen how NVIDIA's flexing its muscles and really pushing the boundaries of AI hardware. But let's try to break down some of these technical advancements in a way that, everyone can understand.
Right.
You mentioned things like HBM3E memory and optical circuit switches. Why are those such a big deal?
Well, these advancements represent a pretty significant leap forward in how AI systems are able to process and manage data.
Okay.
So let's start with HBM3E memory.
Okay.
This is the next generation of high bandwidth memory. And it's really crucial for handling the massive amounts of data that AI needs.
So is it kind of like upgrading the AI's short-term memory so it can access information faster?
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it. And it's not just faster, it also has a much larger capacity.
Yeah.
So AI models can tackle even bigger and more complex tasks.
Okay, so faster and bigger memory. That makes sense.
Right.
But what about these 224 G SerDes? I
Yeah.
have to admit I'm a little lost on that one.
Yeah, don't worry, that's a technical term that even I trip over sometimes.
Okay.
SerDes stands for serializer deserializer.
Okay.
And basically, it's like the highway system for data within the GPU. The higher the speed, the faster data can move between the different parts, like the processor and the memory.
So with 224 G SerDes, we're talking about lightning fast data transfer.
Exactly. It's like having this super efficient transportation network inside the GPU. Everything runs smoothly and quickly. And that's super important for AI because you're constantly dealing with huge amounts of data.
It's amazing how much is happening behind the scenes to make all this AI stuff work.
Yeah.
And then we've got PCIe 7.0, which I guess is also about speed, right?
You got to. PCIe stands for Peripheral Component Interconnect Express. It's the standard way to connect different hardware components in a computer.
Okay.
Each new generation basically doubles the bandwidth. So PCIe 7.0 is a major jump forward in how fast data can move between the GPU and things like storage drives or network cards.
So it's like widening the highways connecting the GPU to the rest of the computer.
Exactly. It's all about getting rid of bottlenecks and making sure data can flow as quickly as possible, which is critical for AI applications that need top performance.
All right, now let's get to the really futuristic stuff. Co-packaged optics and optical circuit switches. This is where it feels like we're stepping into science fiction.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. Co-packaged optics is basically integrating optical transceivers right onto the GPU package.
Okay.
And this lets data travel using light instead of electricity,
Wow.
which is much faster and more efficient, especially over longer distances.
So we're talking about replacing electrical signals with beams of light.
That's right. It's a fundamental shift that opens up a whole new level of performance and efficiency for AI. And then optical circuit switches take this even further. They're like intelligent traffic controllers.
Okay.
They direct the flow of data within the system.
So they make sure everything's going where it needs to go as fast as possible.
Exactly. They optimize performance by dynamically routing these light-based signals.
Yeah.
Really smart system.
It's incredible to think about all these advancements happening at the same time.
Yeah, it really is a time of rapid innovation. And all of this has a real impact on the competition.
Right.
You mentioned earlier how AMD had to cancel their MI350X GPU.
Right.
Well, NVIDIA's upcoming B100, with all its groundbreaking features, probably had something to do with that.
So they're kind of setting the pace, forcing their rivals to either keep up or get left behind.
In a way, yeah.
Yeah.
But ultimately, this competition is good for everyone. It pushes the whole industry to innovate.
Right. It forces everyone to step up their game.
Exactly.
But even with all this excitement about the future, there's still that weird thing with the L40S GPU.
Yeah.
It's kind of strange that they're promoting this model, even though it might not be ideal for certain tasks,
Right.
like large language models.
It does seem a bit counterintuitive. The L40S has limitations when it comes to memory bandwidth, which is a problem for large language model inference. But this could be a strategic move by Nvidia to capture market share in different segments.
So maybe they're targeting clients who don't necessarily need the absolute top of the line performance.
That's one way to look at it. It also lets them offer a wider range of options at different price points, so they can appeal to a broader customer base.
So it's not just about having the fastest, most powerful GPU. It's about having a strategy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're thinking long term, and every decision they make is carefully calculated.
And speaking of strategic moves, we talked earlier about the MGX modular server platform.
Right.
Could you explain why that's such a big deal, especially for companies that are looking to build their own AI infrastructure?
Sure. The MGX platform is a game changer because it makes designing and building servers so much easier. It's a modular system with pre-designed components that you can easily put together and customize.
So you can kind of mix and match to build the perfect system for your needs.
Exactly. And this is a huge advantage for companies that are pushing the limits of AI because specialized hardware can make a big difference in performance.
It sounds like Nvidia is trying to democratize access to AI hardware, make it easier and more affordable for companies to build their own solutions.
That's a key part of their strategy. By creating a more open and flexible ecosystem, they're encouraging more companies to get involved in the AI revolution.
So this is getting really interesting. We've talked about the technical advancements, the competitive landscape, NVIDIA's strategic moves, and the impact on the whole industry.
And we've only just scratched the surface.
There's so much more to the story.
Definitely.
This is all connected to a much bigger picture. We spent a lot of time talking about NVIDIA's plans and how the AI hardware landscape is changing. But let's zoom out a little bit. What does all of this mean for the future of AI as a whole?
Well, we're witnessing an acceleration of AI capabilities that's unlike anything we've ever seen before. All these advancements in hardware are essentially giving AI a massive boost, enabling it to tackle increasingly complex problems and solve things that were impossible before.
So we're talking about potential breakthroughs in all sorts of fields, like scientific discovery, healthcare, climate change.
Absolutely. But with all this incredible potential comes a responsibility to make sure that AI is used for good, for the benefit of all of humanity.
You bring up a good point. You know, the SemiAnalysis report highlighted some concerns about this. For example, as AI models become more powerful, they need more data and more computing power. Could this lead to a situation where only a few giant companies with tons of money can actually access the most advanced AI?
It's definitely a valid concern. If access to cutting-edge AI becomes too concentrated, it could create a huge imbalance of power, and it could stifle innovation.
Yeah, it's almost like a digital divide.
Exactly. We need to think about ways to democratize access to AI resources, make sure everyone can benefit.
That makes me think about open source initiatives and all those collaborative research efforts. Could those help level the playing field?
Absolutely. Open source platforms and collaborative research are essential for creating a more inclusive AI ecosystem. It allows researchers and developers from all over the world to contribute, regardless of their financial situation.
It's fascinating how these technical advancements are so intertwined with social and ethical questions. You know, we can't just focus on making AI faster and more powerful.
Yeah,
We have to think about the consequences as well.
for sure. As AI becomes more integrated into our lives, we need to consider its impact on everything, from employment to privacy to security. We need to have open and honest conversations about these issues and figure out how to develop and use AI responsibly.
It sounds like the future of AI isn't just about building better hardware. It's about building a better future for everyone.
Exactly. We need to ensure that AI is a force for good in the world. And that requires a holistic approach, one that takes into account both the technical and the human aspects of this technology.
This deep dive has been a wild ride. We've explored AI hardware, dissected NVIDIA's plans, and talked about the implications for the future of AI. What are your final thoughts for our listeners?
I would say stay curious and stay engaged. The world of AI is evolving so quickly, it's important to stay up to date on the latest developments and understand how they might affect our lives. This deep dive is just the beginning. Keep exploring, keep questioning, keep learning.
It's not just about understanding the tech itself. It's about understanding how AI is shaping our world and how we can shape its future.
Right. And as we've discussed, the future of AI is not set in stone. We all have a role to play in making sure that AI is used for the benefit of humanity.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. It's been an amazing conversation.
It's been a pleasure.
And to our listeners, thank you for being here. We hope this has sparked your curiosity and given you some things to think about. Until next time.